Good morning. I'm standing out of the headquarters of Chabad International, 770 Eastern Parkway. And there, the windows are the room of the Rabbi, where the Rabbi orchestrated his outreach movement to millions of Jews worldwide. Today, 35 years ago, a great holiday occurred that is still celebrated each and every year today. The name of the holiday is Hey Tevet, which is the holiday of this day, the 5th day of Tevet, and it's known as the celebration of the books. And the story was that 35 years ago there was a court case, and the court case was to determine whether the library of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe's father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, which escaped Europe and Russia and came to here, 770 Eastern Parkway, whether it belonged to the Hasidim, to the followers, to the movement, or did it belong to individual family members. And 35 years ago today, the court ruled that the Rebbe's personal library belonged to the Hasidim, and therefore they would be returned to 770 Eastern Parkway. It was a day of celebration and joy, and the Rebbe declared that every year on this day should be a celebration of books. And the Rebbe explained when there's a victory in court over rare and precious jewels or items, artifacts, usually those items are put in a safe, guarded, never to be touched or barely seen by anyone else. But the Rebbe said just the opposite when it comes to books. Books, they become more and more valuable and precious the more people read them and use them. And therefore, the Rebbe said, the more wear and tear the books get, the greater the value of the books will be. And the Rebbe said, every year on this day, we should rededicate ourselves to filling our homes and our offices with Jewish books. Because the Rebbe said that every home has an ambiance, has an environment. And that ambiance is created by the items that we have in the home. And when you come into a Jewish home, in addition to the mezuzah, you see books on the shelves and on the coffee tables. That creates an environment in the home, and it changes the very essence and fabric of the home. As we know that children that grow up around books, they are more likely to succeed in life. Children who grow up around books and reading Jewish books and texts will more likely succeed Jewishly in their lives. And therefore today in this community and in Jewish communities, especially Chabad communities around the world, there are huge sales in all Jewish bookstores to encourage people to come out and buy books. And interestingly, this originates in this week's Torah portion, where before Jacob comes to the land of Egypt to be reunited with his son Joseph, he sends his son Judah ahead of him to establish a study hall of Torah, because he said, I cannot bring my family into Egypt unless there is a place for them to study Torah, to have Jewish books and texts and continue the study of Torah, because we are the people of the book, and therefore our very lifeline is Torah study and Jewish books. And therefore, for the Jewish family to endure the Egyptian slavery, they would have to have a rooted connection to their heritage through Torah study, through precious sacred texts and books. And therefore, on a very practical level, everyone should go out today and acquire or go online and order some new Jewish books to enrich your home or your office for your children's bedrooms, because that's the message of today and the message of this week's Torah portion. So the story told is a rabbi in New York. His name is Rabbi Kalatzko. He started an organization called Shabbat.com, which helps people find a place for Shabbat who want to experience Shabbat. And indeed, one time a young girl, and this young girl was a troubled girl. She was a girl who was neglected, and this girl was also had difficulties and troubles, and she came to spend Shabbat, this 14-year-old girl, and she was very withdrawn, barely talking to anyone around the Shabbat table. But at the Shabbat table, Rabbi Kalatzko told a story, and the story he told was how he recently found this old little Torah scroll that was abandoned and neglected and had survived the Holocaust, and he saw it for sale, and he went and he bought it. And then he found an advertisement for a little piece of furniture that he figured he could use as an ark. And he noticed that there was a Magen David, a Star of David, and a cross on top of it. And he realized that it was taken from a synagogue and used in a church. So he went and he purchased it. He took off the cross and refurbished it, and he put this old Torah into this old, beautiful little ark after he refurbished it. He said the next morning he sees the girl comes down with a whole different attitude. She's radiant, she's happy, she's full of confidence, she's playing with the other children, interacting with adults, offering to help and volunteer. When the girl left after Shabbat, her foster family called and said she came back so different than when she left. She went as a depressed girl, and now she's full of joy, full of energy, full of goodness and respect for others, and she's outgoing and friendly. What happened? And Rabbi Kolotsky said, I really don't know. So they asked the girl, what happened? And the girl said, when I heard that story, I couldn't stop thinking about that little Torah that was lost for so many years and the ark that was lost for so many years. So in the middle of the night, when everyone was sleeping, I went down to the room where the Torah and the ark were in the synagogue, and I took out the Torah and I opened the ark and I said, Hashem, God, you found a home for this neglected, abandoned, lost Torah, and for this neglected and abandoned, lost ark. I am a little precious young Jewish girl, and I am very lost and disturbed and troubled and neglected. My parents abused me, abandoned me. I'm in a foster home. But just like you lovingly found a warm, loving home for this Torah and for this ark, find me a place to call home. Let me find myself and discover myself. And this was a turning point in the life of this girl. And the message, of course, is that the greatest source of strength, greatest source of spiritual and physical vitality for the Jew has always been the Torah and the books and commentaries on the Torah. Let us take this day to infuse our lives with more Torah study and more physical books all around us. And as the Rebbe said, the more wear and tear the books get, the more precious and valuable they become. Have a wonderful day.